The alien commander stood at the entrance of Earth's most prestigious military academy, his glowing amber eyes narrowing as he surveyed the surroundings. Commander Valor of the Zalari Coalition had seen countless worlds and witnessed innumerable forms of warfare, but nothing could have prepared him for what lay ahead. He'd been invited to Earth as part of an interstellar exchange program to foster understanding between species. The humans, bold as ever, insisted he visit their military institutions to showcase their strength. Valor had agreed, driven by curiosity. After all, how dangerous could a fledgling species like humanity be? They were young, brash, and unrefined. Or, so he thought. As Valor stepped into the Academy's grand hall, his nostrils flared at the sharp tang of metal and oil. The walls were lined with holographic displays of historical battles, each one more violent than the last. A human officer approached him, her uniform pristine, her demeanor sharp. "Welcome, Commander Valor. I'm Colonel Ramirez. I'll be your guide today," she said, her voice steady but laced with pride. "Shall we begin?" Valor nodded, his posture rigid. "Lead the way." The simulation room. Their first stop was the simulation room, a cavernous space filled with soldiers engaged in virtual combat. The screens displayed scenarios ranging from urban warfare to full-scale planetary invasions. Valor watched as human soldiers operated with surgical precision, adapting to chaotic situations in ways that seemed almost reckless. "Your tactics rely heavily on improvisation," Valor remarked, his tone cautious. Ramirez smirked. "We call it flexibility. It's what makes us unpredictable." The commander's gaze lingered on a soldier who had just bypassed a standard protocol to achieve victory. In Zalari warfare, such deviations would be met with severe punishment. But here, it was celebrated. "And this unpredictability doesn't lead to chaos?" Valor asked. "It is chaos," Ramirez replied, her grin widening. "Controlled chaos. That's how we win." Valor's mandibles clicked together, a sign of unease. The live fire exercise. Next, they moved to the training grounds, where recruits were undergoing a live fire exercise. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and the deafening roar of automatic weapons. Valor observed as a squad navigated a mock battlefield, their movements a blend of calculated strategy and raw aggression. One soldier threw himself into a hail of simulated gunfire to draw attention away from his team. The maneuver was successful, but the soldier was killed in the process. "Sacrifice is a core tenet of human strategy?" Valor inquired, his voice tinged with disbelief. "When necessary," Ramirez said, her expression serious. "We value the mission above the individual." Valor's mind raced. Among the Zalari, every life was sacred, and battles were calculated to minimize casualties. The human approach was barbaric, and yet it worked. As they moved on, Valor's gaze lingered on the recruits, wondering how they reconciled such ruthless pragmatism with their sense of identity. Did they truly believe the ends justified the means? Or was this a mask they wore, hiding deeper doubts? The armory. The armory was a labyrinth of lethal ingenuity. Valor's eyes widened as he examined weapons designed not just for efficiency, but for maximum destruction. One particular device caught his attention, a missile labeled thermobaric. "What does this do?" he asked. Ramirez's explanation was clinical. "It ignites the atmosphere itself, creating a pressure wave that pulverizes everything in its radius." Valor's stomach churned. "And you use this against sentient beings?" "When diplomacy fails," Ramirez said, unflinching. "War isn't pretty, Commander." The alien's hands clenched. The Zalari fought with honor, adhering to strict codes that ensured the dignity of their enemies. But here, on Earth, war was a brutal, unrestrained force. Valor turned his attention to other weapons, noting their diversity. There were devices for disabling, disorienting, and outright obliterating opponents. Each one seemed tailor-made for a specific scenario, a reflection of humanity's relentless adaptability. He couldn't decide whether to admire or fear it. The psychological edge. The next stop was a lecture hall where recruits were being trained in psychological warfare. A hologram displayed alien species, including the Zalari. Instructors discussed their weaknesses with clinical detachment. Understanding. Your enemy is half the battle, Ramirez explained. We study everyone. Their strengths, their vulnerabilities, their fears. Then we exploit them. Valor felt a chill run down his spine. Among the Zalari, knowledge was a tool for peace, a means of finding common ground. But here, it was weaponized. Do you not fear becoming the very monsters you fight? Valor asked, his voice trembling. Ramirez paused, her expression unreadable. We fear it every day. That's why we strive to end conflicts swiftly. But if the choice is between survival and morality, survival wins. The final revelation. The tour concluded in a darkened room. A hologram flickered to life, displaying Earth's history of warfare. From ancient tribal conflicts to global wars, the sheer scale of violence was staggering. Valor's chest tightened as he watched footage of nuclear explosions, entire cities reduced to ash. Why show me this? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ramirez's expression softened. Because this is who we are. We've made mistakes, terrible ones, but we've also learned. We fight so that we never have to fight again. Valor's gaze lingered on the images. He realized that humanity's strength didn't come from their weapons or their tactics. It came from their relentless will to survive, to adapt, and to overcome. A new perspective. As Valor left the academy, his thoughts were a whirlwind. The humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also extraordinary. Their resilience, their ingenuity, their capacity for both destruction and growth. It was unlike anything he had ever encountered. As his shuttle departed Earth, Valor found himself reflecting on his own species. The Zalari prided themselves on their civility, their adherence to honor. But had they grown complacent? Was their reluctance to adapt a weakness rather than a strength? For the first time, Valor felt a pang of doubt. Perhaps the humans weren't. Just a threat to be managed. Perhaps they were a force to be learned from, a reminder that survival sometimes demanded embracing the unthinkable. The stars stretched before him, but Valor's thoughts remained anchored to Earth. He had come seeking answers, but he was leaving with questions. Questions that would haunt him long after the stars faded from view.